Let's jump right into today's explainer because we are unpacking a truly fascinating collision between internet celebrity and the absolute wild west of cryptocurrency. We're talking about Logan Paul's crypto zoo. If you've ever found yourself wondering exactly how the massive unchecked reach of a megastar can funnel millions of dollars into a totally unregulated digital ecosystem, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down this source material and see exactly what happened here step by step. So, what happens when influencer trust meets unregulated crypto? It's a massive, massive question. We're looking at a story where millions of fans, people who implicitly trust a creator, are funneled directly into a financial space that has absolutely zero guardrails. We're exploring a narrative of alleged exploitation and just a truly stark lack of digital accountability. When millions of people hang on to every single word of a charismatic creator, and those words direct them toward an unregulated financial project, the results can be absolutely catastrophic. Okay, let's dive into the sheer scale of this. The source material describes this as a $120 million illusion. Just let that sink in. This wasn't some fleeting internet drama or a minor misstep. This was a massive financial collapse of a venture that drew in incredible amounts of money. And we really need to emphasize this point. This wasn't Wall Street hedge funds taking a risky bet. This was retail money. These were everyday fans, everyday followers, who essentially opened their wallets based on a mirage. So you might be wondering, how did this balloon into such a massive phenomenon so quickly? Well, it all started with the promise of CryptoZoo. The source details how Logan Paul utilized his enormous platform. We're talking about his globally top-ranking Impulsive podcast and his millions of YouTube subscribers to heavily, heavily promote this cryptocurrency project. He painted this picture of a fun, incredibly lucrative game ecosystem. He wasn't just casually mentioning it in passing. He was actively and aggressively marketing it to an audience that trusted him implicitly. He promised them this interactive environment where they could generate real passive income. To truly grasp the appeal here, we have to look at the exact mechanism they used to sell this to the public. It's a concept called play to earn. Basically, in this system, users are told they're going to profit from digital assets simply through gameplay. According to the sources, the pitch for CryptoZoo was honestly brilliantly absurd. The idea was you buy these digital base eggs, you hatch them into bizarre hybrid animals, like imagine a part pug, part penguin. And by simply holding or breeding these digital animals, you yield a daily return in the game's native token. You play the game, you earn the money. It sounded like a completely frictionless path to wealth. But despite that massive influx of cash and those grandiose promises of a profitable, playable ecosystem, what actually materialized was a game that never played. The mechanical failure was staggering. When the time actually came for the highly anticipated hatching of these digital eggs, the whole ecosystem just completely broke down. The sources detail how users didn't get a fully functioning game. Instead, many received what appeared to be hastily grabbed stock photos of animals. Some allegedly even still had the Adobe watermark on them. The digital assets that investors poured millions into were practically instantly useless, and the whole venture collapsed before the game mechanics ever actually launched. And this brilliantly illustrates the emotional and financial whiplash these investors felt. It's profound. On one side, you have the marketing they were sold, right? A profitable play-to-earn game filled with valuable, yielding digital assets. But on the flip side, we have the harsh reality outlined in our source text, a collapsed venture where the assets could not be traded, the game straight up didn't work, and funds could not be withdrawn. Investors were completely trapped in a digital cage. They went from anticipating passive income to the gut-punch realization that they couldn't even access or move their own money. Now, this brings us to a major turning point. Because all this happened in the decentralized, largely unregulated world of cryptocurrency, there was no SEC or traditional financial regulator stepping in to freeze assets or demand answers right away. Instead, it fell to independent internet sleuths, most notably CoffeeZilla, who started following the blockchain trail. His independent investigation was the absolute crucial catalyst for unmasking the truth behind this collapsed venture. He dragged all those behind-the-scenes actions out of the shadows and right into the glaring light of the public internet. And wow, the findings of that investigation were wild. It unmasked the involvement of allegedly fraudulent team members operating behind the scenes. We're talking about an ecosystem driven entirely by internal greed. The sources described just absolute chaos. Founders allegedly engaging in stealth launches to dump tokens on their own investors early, and rogue developers supposedly holding the entire game's code hostage for million-dollar ransoms. It paints this picture of a cryptocurrency project that wasn't just technically broken, but was a fundamentally compromised circus of greed from the inside out. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because the sheer whiplash of these events is what makes the saga so jarring. We start off with a massive launch period, where the project is being hyped to millions as the next big thing. Then, almost instantly, we hit the collapse period, where the game utterly fails to function and investor assets just freeze in place. Just as quickly, we enter the investigation period, where independent journalists expose the alleged internal fraud. And then, bizarrely, comes the aftermath period. Instead of a prolonged effort to fix the code or help the community, the source notes the project was essentially abandoned, as Logan Paul pivoted sharply to other massive business ventures, like launching the Prime beverage brand and wrestling in the WWE. Let's focus back on that collapse for a moment, and specifically the human element of this financial fallout. Because we are not just talking about disappointed tech enthusiasts who bought a buggy video game. We are talking about kids using their savings, teenagers, and devoted superfans who trusted the financial advice of their idol. This was a devastating financial hit experienced by everyday people who bypassed their normal skepticism simply because they trusted the person delivering the marketing. Now, what's really interesting to highlight here is this number, $120 million. The source text identifies this as the estimated market loss for fans. I just want to let the sheer scale of that financial damage sink in for a second. To put that into perspective, this is life-changing, generational money that was siphoned directly out of a community of followers, only to vanish into a completely illiquid, failed digital ecosystem. So, how was this monumental loss resolved? Well, according to the text, the resolution was highly inadequate. The immediate aftermath involved legal threats being thrown around rather than actual refunds. Now, eventually, a limited buyback program was implemented, but let's be clear, this wasn't a simple, full refund for everyone. The sources note that users had to jump through incredibly complex legal hoops, often having to waive their right to ever sue just to get a fraction of their initial investment back. Because of these strict conditions, the vast majority of victims remained entirely uncompensated. They were left totally empty-handed despite the public apologies. The irony of how this saga ended for the different parties involved is truly something to behold. We've basically got a tale of two realities. On one hand, we have the fans' reality, a collective $120 million loss, completely financially ruined, left holding untradeable, entirely useless digital JPEGs of stock photo animals. And then, on the other hand, we have Logan Paul's reality, a highly successful rebranding of his public image, pivoting completely away from the failed crypto project to hold up championship belts in WWE arenas and build a billion-dollar beverage empire. It is a staggering disparity in outcomes. Beyond the specifics of CryptoZoo itself, this entire event serves as a glaring example of what we might call the influencer trust trap. It's driven by these parasocial relationships. Think about it. If a guy in a business suit knocked on your door and pitched you a digital egg that prints money, you'd slam the door in his face, right? But when someone watches a creator's vlogs every single day for years, their brain kind of tricks them into feeling like they're actual friends. That false sense of friendship entirely bypasses the natural skepticism a consumer would normally have. It makes them uniquely vulnerable to these kinds of financial pitches. The source material sums this up perfectly. They call it, quote, a cautionary tale about the lack of legal regulation in the crypto space and the potential for influencers to exploit follower trust. So, the crucial point is this. This entire era of crypto was a Wild West atmosphere where hype completely replaced due diligence. This isn't just a story about one failed game. It's a stark warning about the immense dangers of blind digital trust. When the guardrails of legal regulation are completely absent, follower trust doesn't just build communities. It becomes a highly exploitable, highly lucrative resource. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I want to leave you with this. Who actually holds the power when influencer trust outpaces legal regulation? As digital communities and financial markets continue to merge at breakneck speed, where does accountability actually lie in the digital age? It's a massive question and one we all need to carry with us as we navigate the modern internet. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time.
Spin ka panashi makhj zama pad spin ka panashi sabar ba mizrasta da didan shi صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي سترګې ټول کمې بدن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي خمارو د رنځور کړم سترګو خمارو د رنځور کړم سترګو خمارو د رنځور کړم اوس کله علاج مې په لندن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي پختنا ولې ناراضي اوس مې په پختنا ولې ناراضي اوس مې په پختنا ولې ناراضي اسه به خراب د مینې خوان شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي د برباد عبدل زرین کړما اسه د برباد عبدل زرین کړما اسه د برباد عبدل زرین کړما او आवाज د خالد شامل زړه پیوان شي صبر با مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي مخ چې زما پټ په سپین کفن شي مخ چې زما بسپین کفن شي صبر به مې زړه ستا د دیدن شي صبر